G'day folks, this is Raymond Foster, hope you're doing great. In this video we're going to take a look at the subject of portraying the baddie in the anti-white narrative, often referred to as being an ant-nat. Okay, so to be an ant-nat is to portray yourself as a baddie in the anti-white narrative, in the anti-white story, okay, to be the evil bad guys in that narrative, in that story. For whatever reason, I was able to see through this, you could say, this aspect, okay, or this corner of the woven material which is the anti-white narrative, right? So we got one little area of the overall narrative, the worldview, the story of the anti-white narrative, and in this little area I'm proud to say that I actually was able to progress even faster than Jason himself in regards to understanding this aspect, this area, this corner, this part of the anti-white narrative. A good distinction for this, and you'll be able to see this yourself, okay? Jason, when you watch this, you'll be able to see this yourself, okay? This is some self-reflection for you. And you obviously know it's from a position of love and compassion. I care about you as a brother, okay? And ultimately it's about the promotion of the well-being of our folk.
I've observed this phenomenon. White sympathetic people of various stripes being intimidated and held hostage. Therefore, the totality of the white sympathetic sphere held hostage by these folks who, for lack of, a different name or better term for them, maybe you could call them like white power cultists, maybe. They will show up. What they do is they pathologically fixate on a group of people, and they demand that you pathologically fixate on that group of people as well, as a litmus test for whether or not you are legitimate. And then the substance of their activism is what they refer to as naming. So you just say this group, and then that's it. That's all there is to it. That's the activism. If you are pathologically, cultistly using World War II language and fixated on jaywalkers from dawn till dusk and all through the night, you can ruin the lives of white people. Individually, families, whole groups of white people. You can ruin their lives with your prescriptions, and these cultist bastards will love you. So that's the formula to understand the people that the white sympathetic sphere has allowed to hold itself hostage for all of these years. And the time has come for an end to be put to it. It's either going to be us, and then we are able to reclaim our destiny, or it's not going to happen at all. If these people actually cared about white people, then the good that we're doing, they would celebrate, even if they hated the fact that we didn't fixate on jaywalkers like them. Even if they hated the fact that we didn't use their World War II lingo, they would still celebrate us, but they don't.
I will refer to, and what you should refer to, what are in the same category within the anti-white narrative as ant-nats, okay? Which is just, they're actually the most harmful and dangerous anti-whites, okay? Because they're the anti-whites who act like they're not. They're the anti-whites who act as if they are white positive, while portraying the bad guy in the anti-white narrative, which then justifies the stereotypes, the racial discrimination against Western kind as a whole, or evil whitey, which then justifies the abuse of innocent white elderly, white children, white women that have never done nothing wrong in their entire lives. But because someone decided to act like the baddie in the anti-white narrative, then there's people pointing their fingers, say, oh, evil white people, evil whitey, look, racist, Nazi, supremacists, throw the racial slurs, create that stereotype of evil whitey, and then now children, innocent children, are being abused because they have white skin. Okay? So it doesn't matter, it's the same category. Whether or not they're calling out this group and making themselves be portrayed as the evil whitey in the anti-white narrative, or if they're calling out that group, or this thing, or that thing. They all fall into the same category as an anti-white ant-nat, right? Promoting so-called white positivist, white sympathetic ideals in an anti-white way which only harms Western kind as a whole, and again, leads to the justification, the promotion of abuse of innocent children. So there's no distinction between these two categories. It's the same group of people working subconsciously because they've been conditioned to act that way, to be the justification in that narrative. So that the anti-whites who want to abuse the innocent children can just go and abuse innocent children, and then they say, ha, we're allowed to, and because look, evil white people did that. Okay? And in the anti-white narrative, it doesn't matter if you're calling out an ethnic group, right, who happens to have the highest IQ on the charts, or the second highest, whatever. It doesn't matter if you're calling out some group, ethnic group. It doesn't matter if you're calling out leftists. Okay? It doesn't matter if you're calling out Marxists. You're an ant-nat, you're doing the exact same thing. You're the most harmful individual towards the well-being of Western kind. Okay? So people running around, and there's nothing wrong with the definition here or anything either. Alright? An ant-nat, antique nationalist. Any form of white sympathetic ideology which isn't go free. Therefore, by definition, falls into that category. So if you're not going free in the white positive sphere, yet you think you care about white people, then you're an ant-nat, and you're the worst of worst anti-whites. That's just how it is. Again, I can explain exactly how it all works if you're interested and you want to ask questions, you want to know more details. Different, this little bit here, this little part here, explain that, elaborate that a bit more, I'll go into the detail for you. But that's just how it works, right? So, as you'll hear here again, Jason is still a little bit behind myself in this regard, coming from within the anti-white narrative, where he is suggesting that there's some type of category. It's like there's ant-nats that call out people based on their ethnicity, puppies, whatever you want to call them. But then there's these other people who are just cult nats. They're not as bad as the ant-nats, they're just cult nats. And they're the ones calling out the leftists and the Marxists and stuff. And they're like full Trump supporters or whatever, or they're right-wingers or something. They're far right or something. And somehow they're not as bad. No, I'm sorry, Jason, they're exactly the same. The most harmful, dangerous people that are literally the main cause of the abuse of innocent white children and innocent elderly. It's the vulnerable members of our community, our tribe, our people. Okay, abused, dehumanized and abused. Why? Because of these very people. Only these people. This is it. This is the one thing. It's not the anti-whites that are an issue. The anti-whites help us. We all know this. When we can point at somebody showing racial discrimination against our race because we are white, that helps us because we're trying to stop racial discrimination and bring awareness to that. So anti-whites can't do nothing but help us. The only thing that harms Western kind are the people who pretend like they care, but they're actually promoting anti-whiteism unconsciously because they just haven't thought it through. So in this regard, Jason, you're actually falling into that same category. You're acting as an individual from the anti-white narrative. Again, because there's only two categories, isn't there? There's white positive, there's anti-white. That's it. So if you're not calling out all the people who are being anti-white as anti-white in the same one category, you've fallen into that anti-white category yourself, and you're operating from within the anti-white narrative. And that's why you haven't put them just in the one same category as anti-whites. Okay? So it doesn't matter if they are opposing Marxism and they go to church and blah blah, or if they're marching down the streets acting black and white like they're from the 30s. They're just as harmful to the well-being of Western kind. Crazy, yeah? Yeah. How do I know this for sure? I was just illegally arrested, alright? It's a crime in this country what they did. I wasn't how they arrested me. It was illegal. Why? Because it was political persecution, because I was arrested for running for the parliament. I was arresting for running in the Senate. Literally just arrested for running as a politician. And what was the key word they pulled out of my policies and that they charged me for? For hate crime. I got charged hate crime because I ran as a politician. Why? Because one of my policies was to stop immigration. Okay? So I ran as a politician in Australia in the last election, and one of my policies was just to stop immigration. So everyone, even all the peoples, no matter what their race or background or anything, everyone, all Australian citizens would have a better life, would have high income, better jobs, because we stopped the immigration and we put Aussies first, no matter their race or anything, all right? And because I wanted to help out all Australian citizens, no matter their race, all right, everyone together equally, I was arrested and I was charged for hate crime, for trying to just run in politics, and I presented a policy that would be put forward in Parliament and voted on and become law or not. I was arrested for just doing that. Okay? Why? Again, because I'm a white man and one of my policies was to stop immigration. So I was deemed guilty of having murderous, genocidal thoughts about executing non-whites en masse. Okay, this is what the judge said, and I was charged with hate crime, and apparently that's the reason why, because the judge suspected, the judge felt that I wanted to genocide masses of non-white peoples. Why? Because I'm a white man who put across a policy that just said, let's stop immigration and help all races of people. So, if that's the case, even just opposing immigration, fully sensibly, you're put in the same category, all right, as an ant-nat. And just because you're a white man and you run in politics, you do everything legally, civilly, compassionately, from a position of love, because you just want to help all people of all races, because you love your country, but you're white, all right, and you opposed immigration to achieve those things, well, you're automatically, like I was, thrown into the category of ant-nat, okay? You don't have to even mention other races or anything. You can even be supporting all races equally together, and you're still thrown in the category as ant-nat. Why? Because one simple fucking thing. Immigration, one word, immigration. A white man opposing immigration, automatically evil, the same as bloody Hitler. In their eyes, in the anti-white narrative. Okay? So, how much worse do you think it is? That's just me running as a politician. Didn't commit any crimes, nothing. Didn't do anything wrong. Didn't offend anybody. Didn't even talk about any group or anything. Anyone's religion, race, nothing. All I said was, I'm running as a politician. I'm running for the Senate. Vote for me and I will end immigration and we'll all have better lives as Australian citizens. Alright? And just that, I was lumped in and they were trying to arrest, like put me in jail. Alright? For doing absolutely nothing wrong but just trying to make all people's lives better by running in politics and presenting policies. And I was put in the category of the evil supremacist ant-nat, right? In their narrative, in the legal system. So it's not just like this is how they feel. This is the law, right, of the land. How you will be arrested and charged, right? How court cases will be determined. It's not just people's feelings. It's the goddamn law, the judicial system. So, how much worse do you think it would be if you opposed, say, Marxism? or leftists. Oh yeah, you'll be classed as even more evil, even more, more bad than Raymond Foster, because I just opposed immigration. I just wanted to stand up in Parliament, put forward a thing where we all the politicians vote and we say, hey, we're going to stop immigration and raise everyone's paycheck, bring down the price of food. Why not chuck in milk for free for everyone while we're at it, right? So we'll just make everyone's lives better. Even all the non-white people will have better lives, more income, be able to go on more holidays with their loved ones and whatnot. Spend more free time with their family and loved ones. All peoples, no matter their race. That's what I wanted. And still, because I'm a white man, I was thrown in the category, and I used one specific word, I was thrown in the category as the evil Nazi supremacist. Okay? So if you are opposing leftism or Marxism, okay, if you call yourself right wing and you oppose left wingers, how do you think they're going to put you in the anti-white narrative? You're a terrorist that can be put in a freaking concentration camp without trial. If that's the case, if you oppose Marxists and leftists, do you not understand what that means? Even if you just say, oh no, I'm just right wing, bro, I just don't like voting left wing. What are you talking about? I just vote right wing. I'm against leftist politics. Well, guess what? In this current day and age, in this narrative, that means you can be put in a fucking concentration camp as a terrorist. That needs to get through your head, yeah? Even if you just say, oh no, what do you mean? I just vote liberal. I just vote liberal, bro. I'm just against left-wingers. Yeah, well, in this current day and age, if you want to go out saying that, you can be put in a fucking concentration camp for being a terrorist, okay? Because you oppose half of the population of your own country. Do you not understand what that means? And if they're automatically thinking you're the evil and you're plotting to kill people because of they're not the same color skin as you and stuff like this, just because you're a white man, right? They put this evil stereotype on you as some evil Nazi, right? And in the same time, they're thinking you oppose half of the citizens of your own country. You're an evil, crazy Nazi who wants to round up 7 million Jews and put them in a fucking concentration camp and kill everybody because you have white skin. And now you're saying you're against half your own country? Yeah, you're definitely going to a concentration camp, bro. They're not going to let you stay free like that, are they? No. You're going to be done as a terrorist. Simply because you say you vote liberal, you're not going to vote Labour, and you have white skin. Boom. You're a terrorist in a concentration camp. That's how serious this is getting. I was literally arrested just for running as a politician to run in the Senate. Why? Because I have white skin. That's how persecuted we are as a race. People even go around acting like the word racist is a normal word, when it's just the N word for white people. That's how bad the racial discrimination is. To the point where people act like it's normal. Like imagine if you just turned on the TV and people are getting called N word, and it's just all normal. That's what they do with the word racist, which is just a racial slur against white people. It's not even a real word. The real word is racial discrimination. But racist has never been a real word. It's always just been a racial slur against white people. But people use it as if it's a real word. Okay? I was arrested for running as a politician because I have white skin and I'm a white man. So if you even just slightly come across as not the most friendly person possible, there's something that oh no, this person might be plotting to kill everyone because he has white skin and he thought this idea. You have to understand that's how simple it is. Everyone in the anti-white narrative has been conditioned and brought up, right, from birth to have these mental associations. So if they see a person with white skin, we've all been raised from birth that if we see a man with white skin and he says something like I did, let's stop immigration, boom, automatically I'm perceived, I'm stereotyped, I'm racially discriminated as some evil white man who wants to kill non-white people. Why? Because I have white skin and I said I'm against immigration. But if I had black skin and I said I'm against immigration, nobody would have batted an eye. But I was literally arrested illegally in a so-called free country because I said I was against immigration and I have white skin. So what was I really arrested for? Obviously, I was just arrested because I'm a white man. That's it. There's no other reason. Yeah? Pretty straightforward. So if we live in a country where you get arrested just because you're a white man, nothing else, you haven't done nothing, you're just a white man and you get arrested for that. How do you think you're going to be treated if you're a white man and you get angry? Or if you're a white man and you show some type of, image, you put yourself across in a way where people are going to perceive you as something, scary. Alright? You're not just going to be arrested for being white. You're going to be arrested and then put in a freaking concentration camp as a terrorist for being white because you're white and a bit scary. Okay? And if you think this ain't serious, you can look at my court case. It's all recorded, public news now. It's all evident for anyone to check for themselves. I was literally arrested for just being a white man running in politics. That's the world we live in now in Australia. And it's been proven again, like I said, I've been through court. It's all recorded. You can read the transcript yourself. They had no evidence, nothing. The only evidence they had was that I was running in politics, which is a constitutional right, and I was opposing immigration to help all races of Australian citizens. And then you can see yourself what the judge had to say and how I was arrested and charged because apparently I was plotting to murder innocent groups of non-white people. Literally, the judge said I'm plotting to murder and genocide people. Like, I'm going to genocide groups of people. Why? Because I ran in politics and said, let's end immigration. Okay? And that's all it's all there for anyone to check. The evidence is there out in the world. Anyone in the planet can check the evidence and read the transcript of the court case, which is going to be appealed to higher courts, even if it has to go to the High Court of Australia, because it's such a serious thing. So, to summarise, to end off, it doesn't matter if you call yourself, or if you oppose a certain group and you think you're mad neo-Nazi or whatever, and you don't like the puppies, right? Obviously, you're stigmatized as the most retarded, evil scum of the earth by doing so. Okay? But in the same way, even if you just oppose leftism, even if you just vote Liberal and you oppose Labor because you don't like their politics, but you have white skin, look out. Alright? Even if you just oppose Marxism because you just don't agree with that ideology, or socialism or communism because you don't believe in those economic ideals. You believe in a free market or something, but you have white skin, look out, because they will be coming for you and you might get arrested for it. Okay? Not a joke. You can look at the court case that I just went through. It's public evidence. Anyone can check for themselves. Alright? That's how serious this is. So, be very careful with what you say. If you're white, because of how persecuted we are as a race, you have to be very careful. They will come after you just for being you. Alright? So you never talk about being opposed to Marxism, because that automatically they put you in a category as a terrorist. They can literally put you in a concentration camp without trial. Alright? You never oppose leftism. The exact same thing. The only thing you oppose if you want to protect yourself, if you want to protect your children and your loved ones, alright, and you care about the well-being of your folk. As a white man or woman, the only thing you can do is you can oppose anti-whiteism. But if you oppose anything else, they're going to throw you in the category as an evil terrorist, the same as the Nazis from the 30s, because of that racial stereotype and discrimination against our race, where we're classed as the evil white man or evil white woman. Alright? So they'll racially discriminate and put you in that category so that they can dehumanize you, so that they can abuse you, alright, on the basis of your race. Alright? So you never allow them to do that. Alright? So if you want to oppose anything, you oppose anti-whiteism. right? From a position of love for all people, no matter their background, no matter their race, anything, including Western kind, my race, alright? So from this position, nobody can try to paint me as a bad guy who's out to harm non-whites or anything, because by creating a false stereotype, a racial discriminatory stereotype, putting me in a box because of the colour of my skin, okay? And making out like I'm evil, I'm the same as some type of supremacist or Nazi or something like this. Because I consciously make sure I don't put myself across in ways like that, right? And I also make sure I put myself across in a way, like I said, only referring to anti-whites, because that's something that is against me and my race. So anyone who has a problem with that, or won't allow me to speak out against the harm of my race, they are then joining in, they are accomplices, and they are supporting the harm of my race by not allowing me to speak about it, by trying to stigmatize me as some type of supremacist, etc. by doing so, by simply speaking about the well-being of my own tribe, my own people, my family, who I love. And so, if you are wise enough and you put yourself across in this way, you can be as proud as you want as a white man, and there's nothing anyone can do. And if they do anything to you, they do try to persecute you, guess what happens? They're not able to paint you as the evil, bad, you know, because you've already worked out their scheme and how they plot that racial discrimination against us and how they stereotype us. So you're conscious enough to not allow yourself to be racially stereotyped into that category as an evil white. And instead you only oppose that which is harmful to your people and your race. So nobody can point the finger and say, hey, why are you against this? Why are you against leftist? Why are you're a terrorist? You're this? No, nobody can say that. They can only say you're an advocate for well-being. You're a hero of your people. You're a noble character, right? Who lives from a position of honor and duty and care and compassion for everyone on earth. That's all they can say. And anyone who says otherwise will only expose themselves as anti-white bigots who want to racially discriminate you against you on the basis of your race, and further promote that systemic racial discrimination against our race as a whole, so that they can continue the persecution and abuse of innocent members like our children, the vulnerable members of our community, our tribe, the elderly, the children, the women, etc., the men who can't defend themselves. They want to have our people dehumanized, so we all get put in the same category as evil white, so they can beat our children and beat our elderly, and then they'll clap and say it was the good right thing to do. Why? Because those children and white people were a part of the group called the evil whites, which has been dehumanized, and thus it's all right to harm them. Okay? So that's why they have this stereotype of Nazi, racist, fascist, to dehumanize all white people together as evil whites, so then they can abuse your children and then say it's the right good thing to do. And that's what they're doing, and they're getting away with it. So, as long as we're aware of this and we become conscious of this, and how we are labelled and slandered, stereotyped racially or through racial discrimination as an evil white supremacist or Nazi, racist, etc. Again, remember, the word racist isn't even a real word. It's literally just the N-word for white people. The real word in the real world is racial discrimination. That's the real word, racial discrimination. But if you say racist, that's the same as saying the N-word. It literally just means white person. Okay? There's no non-white racists. There's only white racists. Why? Because it just means white people who are evil and don't like non-whites, so then you can dehumanize them and abuse their children. Why? Because they're quote-unquote racist. It's the same as calling someone an N-word. If you actually cared about it, you'd just call it racial discrimination, what it actually is. Not a racial slur, call it like racist, which is a form of racial discrimination. You see? But people are so used to the systemic anti-white racial discrimination against people because of the basis of their race, because they have white skin, it's become such a normal everyday thing that people go around saying the word racist as if it's a real word. Okay? So that's why that word is thrown around. It's a racial slur. It's to put you in a box, to categorize you as the evil white, so they can justify abusing children, elderly, etc. And that's why recently, over the past few years, there's been numerous white children massacred, some of them shot in the head, point blank shot in the head. And when the criminals were asked why they did this, why did they execute these innocent children, they said in the court case it was because the child was white. The child had white skin, so I shot him in the head. So if people don't think that using words like racism is leading to dehumanizing our race to the point where innocents are being victimized and abused, turn on your news, go on the internet and Google and look up hush crimes, innocent white children literally being executed in the street, shot in the forehead, and then in the court case the murderers are saying they did it because the child had white skin. Okay? And then come back and tell me that I'm wrong and that people there isn't a huge issue of systemic racial discrimination against my race, and we are the most persecuted race on the planet. You find me any other race of people where their children are being shot point blank in the head for just having that colour skin, and then it's all shut up, quiet, nobody talks about it, it's not a serious thing. Find me one race of people on the planet that happens to. It only happens to one race of people. My race, the white race. Only white children are shot in the head for having white skin, alright? And then nothing's done about it. Why? Because they have been dehumanized to the point where nobody cares. Oh, it's just a white child. Who cares if they get shot in the head? Okay? So, ultimately, what does this mean? This means there's no distinction of category, Jason. Alright? This ain't a personal dig or nothing. This is educational for everybody. This is to save our race, protect our children from this type of justified abuse. Alright? But fundamentally, there's no distinction. There's no ant-nat. There's no cult-nat. They're all ant-nats. And what is that? That's the type of anti-white. That's the worst type of anti-white. Alright? The very worst type of anti-white, ant-nat. And even if you're just opposing Marxism or leftism, anything that isn't just anti-whiteism and anti-whites, from a position of love and care for all races of people, including Western kind, then you're an anti-white, alright? And if you think you aren't, and you think you have care, or you're white sympathetic, and you aren't, alright? Only opposing anti-whites and anti-whiteism in that manner, then you are an anti-white. You're the worst of worst anti-whites. And that's why I'm so aggressive with folk like that who act as if they care. They promote things like white well-being, and then they say that, oh, it's the Marxists and the leftists, right? You're the worst of the worst. And I used to be just as bad. Because again, we're all raised, and we've all been brainwashed and conditioned in this anti-white narrative. We all have to go free and learn about, these lies, meme pathogens, pretexts used to justify the abuse of innocent members of our race and dehumanize our race to the point where that's justified. We have to learn to go free of these, this mind sickness, essentially. So I used to be just as bad. I used to be opposed to leftists, Marxism, things like this. I used to be the worst of worst anti-whites, because that's what I was like. But understanding anti-whiteism, the anti-white narrative, learning to go free of the anti-white narrative, I'm able to see and reflect and say, oh no, yes, I was the worst of worst anti-whites when I was opposing Marxism and leftism, etc. But I'm not going to do that anymore, because I've learned not to. And so if you have a brain, or if you have a heart, or if you actually care about your race as a member of Western kind, you will do the same thing. It's not an if or a maybe, no, it's just, if you care, you're going to stop being the worst of worst anti-whites, and you're actually going to help your race and protect children. Not be the reason they are being shot in the head. Because that's what you currently are at the moment, if you oppose leftism or Marxism. You're personally responsible for innocent white children being executed for having white skin. It's not a good thing to be responsible for. You should be responsible for helping protect those innocent white children from such potential attacks. And the only way you can do so is by only opposing anti-whiteism, going free of the anti-white narrative, living from outside of the anti-white narrative in our own white positive narrative. And helping others to as well step beyond that anti-white narrative, beyond those anti-white justifications and ideals which lead to the abuse and harm of innocent members of Western kind, and then as well allow them to step out into a white positive narrative. And once enough people do that, then the world will change and there will be no more racial discrimination against our race. So that's all we can do, is we can slowly change the narrative, one person at a time, like a ripple effect, until every drop of water in the river or ocean is in harmony with our message of peace and love and compassion for all races and all people, no matter their background, including Western kind, my race. So, take it easy, folks. Catch you next time.